The Galactic Council's official report said Earth's membership termination was due to repeated violations of interspecies protocols and failure to adhere to peaceful expansion standards. But every human who heard those words knew it was a lie, thinly veiled, reeking of cowardice and fear. They betrayed us, and not just diplomatically. They attacked our colonies, sabotaged our trade routes, and left our people stranded on hostile planets without aid or protection. Earth's diplomats were slaughtered on Virex 7, and the Council called it an internal matter. Commander Alden Locke sat at the head of the bridge aboard the EFS Vengeance, a warship built in orbit of Jupiter, Earth's first Dreadnought-class battleship in nearly 3 decades. His fingers tapped a rhythm on the steel armrest, but his eyes stayed locked on the forward screen. The void stretched ahead, cold, black, and perfect. In the distance, the space station Halion Prime floated in silence, unaware of what was coming. "What's the status on cloaking?" Alden asked, without looking back. "Still active. No pings on their sensor grid. We're invisible to them," Lieutenant Maris replied, his voice tight with tension. He wasn't afraid, but he knew what this mission meant. They all did. Alden leaned forward slowly. "And the fleet?" "Formation holding at the edge of the asteroid belt. All ships await your signal." He exhaled slowly through his nose. 5 years ago, he was begging for permission to send medical aid to the mining outpost on Calaris. The Council refused, said it wasn't their jurisdiction. 17,000 died, slowly, painfully. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about principle. It was about showing the universe what happens when you push a species too far, when you treat the descendants of Earth like expendable ants in your cosmic machine. "They never thought we'd fight back," Alden said quietly. Maris gave a grim nod. "They thought we'd roll over. Again." But Earth had changed. After the betrayals, the riots started, then the unification. The old nations dropped their flags and pooled every resource into a single cause: survival through strength. The Earth fleet was born, not to protect peace, but to enforce vengeance. The EFS Vengeance wasn't the only weapon Earth built. There were hundreds: war frigates, stealth bombers, railgun cruisers, AI-controlled hunter drones, all forged in silence, in deep orbit shipyards cloaked from Council surveillance. Earth didn't petition. It didn't ask for justice anymore. It prepared for war. And now, the moment had come. "Play the message," Alden ordered. Maris tapped a screen. A small hologram shimmered to life, showing a withered alien with 6 glimmering eyes and golden robes. Counselor Thryax, one of the original architects of Earth's expulsion. In the recording, Thryax spoke calmly, condescendingly. "Human aggression cannot be allowed to spread further. Earth's species is unstable, emotional. Their extinction may, unfortunately, be the only path to lasting galactic peace." The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Alden stood. "Transmit response," he said. "On all Council channels." The communications officer gave a slight nod and tapped the signal. Alden stepped forward, eyes hard. "This is Commander Alden Locke of Earth's fleet. You lied to us. You used us. You discarded us. You killed us. You should have wiped us out completely, because now we're coming for everything you've built." He paused for half a second. "You wanted peace, but you gave us war, and now Earth brings you annihilation." He gave the signal. In the blackness of space, the cloak around the asteroid belt flickered, then dropped. Dozens, no hundreds of Earth ships lit up the stars, weapons armed, targeting systems locked. The Council outpost ahead didn't even have time to scream before the first salvo hit. Railguns punched holes in reinforced plating like it was wet paper. Plasma lances carved through hangars and barracks. Hunter drones swarmed defense satellites and turned them into metal clouds. The station exploded in slow motion, debris spinning like broken bones in zero-G. And Earth's fleet didn't stop. They turned toward the next Council outpost. The destruction of Halion Prime wasn't just a warning shot. It was a declaration of extinction. By the time the Council realized what had happened, the Earth fleet had already moved on. 7 more outposts fell within the next 24 hours. No survivors, no hesitation, no diplomacy. Aboard the EFS Vengeance, Alden Locke sat quietly in the war room, surrounded by the flickering blue glow of strategic displays. The faces of his officers were lit in cold light, focused, hardened. None of them celebrated. This wasn't triumph. It was the delivery of a long overdue debt. "How many dead?" he asked. "Estimated 420,000, said Commander Rykov, the fleet's tactical operations lead. "Mostly personnel. Civilian traffic was minimal." Alden didn't flinch. "Good. Keep it that way. We don't waste fire on civilians, not unless they fire first." There was a moment of silence. Rykov hesitated. "They're calling us terrorists, sir." "They always did," Alden replied, "back when we were begging for rations and aid. Let them choke on their own hypocrisy." He looked back at the massive star map that showed the outer Council perimeter, now pockmarked with red. They had cracked through the shell. The inner systems were next. Council broadcasts were already flooding interstellar space, spinning Earth's assault as madness, as desperation, as proof of human instability. But the truth bled through their propaganda, because entire civilizations had watched the Council strip Earth of its status, stranding its colonies and blocking trade. They watched humanity claw for survival with no help. Now they were watching Earth strike back with a fury only centuries of humiliation could forge. Across the galaxy, neutral systems stayed silent, fearful, not of Earth's power, but of its resolve. "Sir," said the comms officer, "we've received a private transmission, encrypted, from Hilarion. Civilian freighter captain claims to have Council-level intelligence, says he wants to defect." Alden turned slowly. On screen. The hologram shimmered into view. A grizzled man with pale skin and dark green eyes looked out nervously. His species was Varkari, a Council-aligned race known for trade, but notorious for selling out anyone if the price was right. "My name is Kresh Thal. I was a cargo hauler for the Council's inner sectors," he said. I don't care who wins, but I have something you'll want." "Go on," Alden said coldly. "I transported a cargo convoy 3 cycles ago. Manifest listed it as reactive crystal mining equipment, but it wasn't. It was nerve agent, Reflex 8, military grade, enough to poison a moon. They were moving it to Yalix Minor." Alden narrowed his eyes. Yalix was neutral. It was, until it voted to support Earth's readmission to the Council. A week later, their central biosphere suffered a systemic failure. It wasn't a failure. A few officers exchanged glances. Reflex 8 had been banned galaxy-wide. Even in war, it was considered inhumane. It melted synapses from the inside out, turning victims into living statues. Earth had never used it. Even at its worst, it still held a code. "Send us coordinates," Alden said. "I want asylum," Kresh said quickly. "Not just for me, for my family. I give you this, and you take us to Earth. We vanish. No leaks." Alden didn't blink. "You'll be taken care of, if the info checks out." The transmission ended. For a moment the room was silent, then Alden spoke. "Plot a new course. Full fleet repositioning. We're hitting the chemical depot. If they have more stockpiles, they burn tonight." Rykov nodded. "Orders acknowledged." 12 hours later, the Earth fleet emerged from warp near the Tarnak Belt, an abandoned mining region in the shadows of 3 broken moons. Hidden among the rubble was a station so well cloaked it didn't even register on standard sensors. But Earth had evolved. Human ships deployed micro-scout drones, AI-controlled, cold-bodied, and built for silence. They found the depot. And what they found turned Alden's stomach. Hundreds of canisters marked medical aid, in reality, poison. Jesus Christ, Maris muttered. They'd used humanitarian labels to transport genocide. Classic Council playbook. If Earth had tried that, execution, tribunal, galactic shame. But the Council? They just rewrote the reports. Deploy ground units, Alden ordered. No survivors, tag everything. We're bringing it back. The galaxy needs to see this. The assault took 15 minutes. The depot's guards were low-level mercs, lazy and underpaid, used to scaring off smugglers, not facing elite Earth shock troops in advanced exosuits. They died fast. When the last scream died out, Alden stood in the ruins. He walked the halls himself. He wanted to see it. The poison, the labels, the truth. One container had burst during the firefight. A Varkan technician lay curled on the ground, body frozen, mouth wide open in a silent scream. His eyes were locked in horror. Send this to every neutral planet, Alden said. Let them see what the Council calls peace. Back in Council space, chaos bloomed. The High Assembly convened in emergency session, 12 species in one great chamber, all speaking over each other, shouting fear and blame. The Holari delegates demanded Earth's immediate annihilation. The Tyrnos accused the Holari of provoking Earth in the first place. The Virexi called for negotiations. The Zilarn threatened to break away if war continued. For the first time in centuries, the Council fractured. And Earth hadn't even lost a ship. Earth's next target was Syros, a communication relay hub that connected over 70 Council systems. If it fell, Earth would cut the galaxy's political arteries. Every order, every alert, every plea for aid, gone. But Syros wasn't undefended. It was guarded by the 7th Naval Corps, the Council's elite, battle-hardened, experienced, ruthless. Alden studied the data in silence. They'll expect a frontal assault, Rykov said. They'll be dug in deep. No way we outgun them. We don't need to, Alden replied. We bleed them dry, we cut power, we suffocate them. He turned to Maris. You have those blackout drones ready? Fully operational. Deploy, we bring the lights down, and when they panic, we gut them. The blackout was surgical. Within 30 minutes, Syros went dark. Every satellite, every relay tower, every backup generator, dead. Ships drifted helplessly in orbit, blind and silent. Earth drones swarmed like insects, crashing into ventilation systems, splicing cables, and shorting cores. Panic spread through the 7th Naval Corps. Officers shouted, systems glitched, orders were missed. The arrogance of the Council's finest cracked under real pressure. And then came the Earth fleet. No fanfare, no warning, just raw firepower. The EFS Vengeance led the charge. Its railgun tore through the command cruiser like a blade through flesh. Earth's squadrons followed, carving lines of death across the sky. Plasma missiles split hulls open. Explosive rods shattered hangars. The battle was over in 2 hours. Syros fell. Its last transmission was a broken signal, static, screams, and one final message. Humanity is not what we thought. The galaxy watched. And the galaxy started whispering. Earth wasn't weak anymore. It wasn't begging. It wasn't pleading for justice. It was delivering it. And somewhere deep in the spiral arm of the galaxy, on a lush council world untouched by war, a counselor named Vren watched the reports in silence. His aides were trembling, his guards were on edge, but he sat quietly, processing one simple truth. They had made a mistake. A species with memory and rage was dangerous, but a species with nothing to lose? That was something else entirely. The world of Dorelia was not a fortress. It was beautiful. Oceans the color of sapphire fire, white mountains curved like ancient glass, and sprawling cities floating on magnetic rings above emerald plains. It was a symbol of the Council's wealth, elegance, and untouchable arrogance. But now, as the Earth fleet emerged above it like a storm made of steel and fire, beauty meant nothing. No defenses, no fleets, just silence. Commander Alden Locke stood in the observation bay of the EFS Vengeance, his eyes cold, jaw clenched. "Status," he said. "Planetary grid is active but minimal," Maris replied. "They didn't expect us to come this far. Their orbital platforms are ceremonial, meant to impress, not defend." "They thought we'd stop at Syros," Rykov muttered. "They still don't understand us." Alden didn't answer. He stared at the cityscapes glowing below. Towering spires, shining domes, transport lines weaving through clouds. The Council called Dorelia a cultural sanctuary, a place above war. But it was also the birthplace of the Resolution, the doctrine that had led to Earth's exile. The first pen stroke of betrayal had happened right down there, in a marble hall full of smug aliens signing Earth's fate like it was a trade deal. Alden turned away from the glass. "We're not here to raise the cities." The crew looked at him, startled. "We drop in, occupy the capital, seize the Resolution Tower. No mass fire, no bombing. I want the Council's history rewritten in their own streets." There was silence, and then Maris nodded, a slow smile curling on his lips. Occupation, not destruction. "They called us savages," Alden said. "Let's show them discipline." The dropships descended in waves. Earth's elite strike teams, clad in black armor with glowing blue visors, landed with pinpoint precision around the capital ring. Crowds screamed. Dorelian civilians ran for cover, their peace shattered by the sudden thunder of human boots on marble. But this wasn't a massacre. Earth soldiers didn't fire into crowds. They moved with precision, clearing government compounds, disarming guards, disabling comms. The Council delegation stationed on-world surrendered within 40 minutes, stunned and silent. Alden landed last. He walked through the Resolution Tower's grand halls as soldiers cleared the path. Paintings of Council unity lined the walls, sanitized lies carved in gold. He ripped one down as he passed. The frame shattered on the floor. The central chamber was just as he remembered from the old vids. Circular, smooth, full of polished stone and arrogance. The same table where Earth's expulsion had been signed still stood in the center, untouched. He walked up to it slowly. "This is where they did it," Alden muttered. "Signed us out of existence." He raised his arm. A soldier tossed him a small black cube. He slammed it onto the table. It beeped, activated, and began transmitting. "All Council systems will receive this live," Maris said through comms. Alden stepped forward into the lens. "This is Commander Alden Locke of the Earth Fleet. 5 years ago, this table ended our future. Now it begins yours. This chamber belongs to Earth. Your empire is crumbling. Your lies are rotting, and we will not stop. Not until every world that betrayed us learns the cost of betrayal." He paused. "You didn't break us. You hardened us, and now we're unbreakable." He turned away as the signal ended. But just as he stepped down, A private alert buzzed in his ear. "Sir," came Maris's voice, quieter now. "We just picked up a stealth transmission from the far rim, from Zarn Axis." "That's a Council black site," Alden said. "Research hub, highly secured." "Not anymore," Maris replied grimly. "Our spies say it's gone dark. Earth weapons weren't deployed there." "Then what hit it?" "They think it was the Zelarn." Alden froze. The Zelarn, one of the Council's oldest member species, insectoid, brutally logical, efficient. For centuries, they served as neutral arbiters in Council disputes. They'd never taken sides. Until now. "They broke ranks?" Alden asked slowly. "Not officially," Maris replied, "but the report says their fleet bombarded Zarn Axis from orbit, destroyed the data cores, then vanished." "Why?" "We don't know, but there's more. They're requesting a meeting, with you, alone." Alden stared at the wall, mind racing. This war had started as Earth versus the galaxy. But now, the seams were splitting wider than he ever imagined. The rendezvous took place in the dead zone of Gliese Fringe, a no-man's land where signals died, and politics didn't matter. Only 3 ships arrived, 1 from Earth, 2 from the Zelarn. Alden walked into the cold metal chamber of the neutral cruiser. The walls buzzed with strange energy, the air thick with chemical scent. Across the table stood 3 Zelarn, tall, 6-limbed, mandibles twitching. Their eyes glowed like amber glass. The center one spoke first, its voice metallic and sharp. "You are Alden Locke." "I am," he said evenly. "We have watched your crusade. It is impressive, efficient, controlled." "You here to threaten me?" Alden asked. "No," the Zelarn said. "We are here to tell you the Council is dying, and we will not mourn it." Alden narrowed his eyes. "Go on." The Zarn Axis facility was not just research, it was experimentation on humans. Alden's heart froze. They captured survivors, colonists, children. They studied human resilience, pain thresholds, neural responses to trauma. The data was horrifying. We demanded the Council shut it down. They refused. We acted. Alden clenched his fists. "And you tell me now? After 5 years?" "We tell you now because the Council is afraid of you, and that fear creates opportunity." The Zelarn leaned forward. "We do not seek alliance, but we will not fight you. We will provide coordinates, systems with secret Council stockpiles, military, chemical, biological. Take them, destroy them, let the Council rot." Alden stared at the alien, rage boiling just beneath his skin. He didn't trust them, but the data could save thousands, maybe more. "I take your intel," he said slowly, "but if you ever betray us—" "You will bring annihilation," the Zelarn said. "Yes, we understand." They handed him a crystal drive. Then they vanished. Back aboard the Vengeance, Alden sat alone with the drive in his hands. The war was spreading faster than even he had planned. Allies were appearing in the shadows. Enemies were fracturing from within. But what haunted him more was the experiments. He ordered Maris to decode the files. What they found broke even hardened soldiers. Children dissected, neural probes jammed into skulls, reflex testing under live fire conditions, notes scribbled by Council scientists discussing humans as feral but fascinating. The room fell silent. Some turned away. Others wept. Rykov punched the steel wall so hard he split his knuckles. Alden stared at the screen. "They wanted to know what makes us keep fighting," he said. Now they had their answer. He stood up. Target the sites. All of them. We strike in 10 hours, and this time, no survivors. Maris nodded grimly. The next wave would be the bloodiest yet. Because now it wasn't just about vengeance. Now it was about the memory of every human the Council had silenced and carved like an animal. And Earth would make them pay. It began with 3 silent explosions. High above the planet Veltraxis, once considered the Council's most secure military hub, Earth's stealth missiles struck without warning. They didn't make fireballs. They made voids, silent ripples that cracked through defense satellites, disabled planetary shields, and left a proud system gasping for light. And then Earth's fleet arrived. Over 200 warships, dreadnoughts, ion carriers, stealth destroyers. Like wolves slipping through the smoke of their own kill, Commander Alden Locke stood at the heart of the EFS vengeance, eyes locked on the planet's orbit as ship after ship emerged behind him. "We're here," Maris said, "just like the Zelarn coordinates said." Alden's jaw tightened. The intel was real. That much was clear. But trusting it was another matter. Still, if Veltraxis truly held the Central Council Warfare Command, Earth couldn't hesitate. Not anymore. Not after what they'd seen at Zarn Axis. They weren't just fighting for justice anymore. They were hunting butchers. "Launch ground teams," Alden ordered. "No speeches, no mercy." Maris gave a short nod, and the command pulsed through the fleet. Within minutes, Earth's black-armored shock troopers slammed into the surface like thunderbolts, precision insertions, breaching key facilities, disabling defense grids. Human tactics had evolved far beyond Council expectations, fast, fluid, and lethal. Inside Warfare Command, chaos reigned. Council generals, once smug and certain, scrambled like cornered rats. Their elite guards fell within minutes. Earth soldiers didn't pause. They didn't shout orders or waste time posturing. They simply executed. And then they found the lab. Buried deep beneath the command center, behind 2 meters of armor-grade alloy, it was never meant to be found. But Earth found it. When the blast doors came down, what they saw made some men stop in their tracks, not because they were weak, but because they were human. Inside the lab were prisoners, chained, sedated, hooked to machines. Some were adults, some were children, and all of them were human. A boy, maybe 12 years old, sat strapped to a chair, electrodes wired into his temples, monitors recording his pain responses. He looked up slowly as the soldiers entered, eyes glassy from sedatives. "Earth?" he whispered, voice barely audible. A soldier fell to his knees beside him. "Yeah, kid, Earth's here." Commander Alden was in the room moments later. He looked at the boy, then at the rows of data panels, the journals, the Council insignia on every device. "They were studying resistance," Maris said grimly, "trying to figure out what makes humans keep fighting, even when broken." Alden didn't speak. He walked through the lab in silence, past the cages and cryopods. One held a woman, naked, bruised, staring blankly at nothing. "They broke the treaties," Maris said. "Every single one." "They never followed them," Alden muttered. "We just didn't want to believe it." He turned to the team. "Evacuate every prisoner, then burn this place to hell." Hours later, the lab was gone. Earth's fleet stood silent over Veltraxis, watching as plumes of smoke curled into the upper atmosphere. But Alden couldn't feel triumph. He sat alone in his quarters, staring at the boy they'd rescued. He didn't cry, didn't speak. He just sat still, watching nothing, flinching at every new sound. Like some part of him had already accepted that pain was the only truth the galaxy had to offer. The boy's name was Micah. Alden learned it from a scrap of ID found in the facility logs. No surname. Just Micah. Age 12. Colony of Terran 5. Declared deceased by council medics 4 years ago. Except they hadn't let him die. They'd hidden him. For study. Alden gritted his teeth so hard his jaw ached. They did this to him, he muttered. And now they'll say we're monsters for fighting back. He stood. Get me comms. The broadcast went out across the quadrant. Live, unfiltered, raw. It showed Micah. It showed the lab. It showed the branded council crates, the operating tables, the chemicals. And then Alden appeared, on screen. This is what they are, he said. This is the council's version of peace. He didn't shout, didn't rage. His voice was quiet, cold. You called us unstable, dangerous, primitive, but we didn't create these prisons. We didn't dissect children. You did. His eyes hardened. Earth is no longer interested in rejoining your broken order. We're here to end it. The feed cut, and in the silence that followed, 1,000 neutral worlds suddenly saw. Not just Earth's anger, but the truth behind it. Meanwhile, deep in council space, the cracks were becoming earthquakes. The Turnos withdrew their fleets. The Valari signed a temporary non-aggression pact with Earth. And the Zalarn quietly absorbed 3 council stations into their own territory. Panic gripped the council's core. Inside the High Assembly, shouting echoed through the marble chamber. We must retaliate, bellowed Councillor Jarn, a towering Holari with blood-red eyes. Earth's path leads to chaos. They want war without end. They've already won more systems in a month than we've taken in 50 years, shouted a Valari diplomat. Their fleet is growing. Their tech is matching ours. Then we wipe them out. Glass Earth if we must. But even that threat rang hollow, because Earth wasn't isolated anymore, and glassing Earth wouldn't stop the dozens of colonies and fleets Earth had now seeded across former neutral zones. It would only ignite them. Still, desperation made fools out of frightened men. And so the Council authorized Project Silence, a last resort weapon, classified for centuries, a virus, engineered specifically for human DNA, designed not to kill instantly, but to shut down the mind slowly, thought by thought, memory by memory. They loaded it into drones, released it across trade routes, old Earth satellite networks, dormant beacons left behind. And they waited. But Earth wasn't asleep. Inside the command deck of the Vengeance, alarms blared. Unknown signal patterns detected, shouted a tech officer. They're trying to piggyback into our satellite echonet. Maris acted fast. Quarantine the nodes, full lockdown, trace the signal. The virus never made it in. Instead, Earth trapped it, sealed it in a digital vault, and studied it line by line. And what they found wasn't just horrifying. It was personal. The virus is targeted, the AI reported. It maps to human cognitive markers, patterned around Earth-based neurology, specifically colony-born variants. They designed it for our kids, Rykov said in a whisper. The silence in the room could have frozen fire. They tried to lobotomize an entire species, Maris said, slowly, so no one would even know it was happening. Alden's voice was barely audible. Turn their weapon around, deliver it back. Every system that helped design this thing, mark it. We purge them. No more diplomacy. No more strategy. Just a reckoning. The Earth fleet split into 3 wings. One struck the Gavros Institute, home to the AI division that first helped code the virus. Another descended on Kethra base, where black site drone programming had been developed. The third, Alden's fleet, drove straight for Sindaran, where the Council's top medical research minds lived in luxury and comfort. There were no speeches, no threats, just steel, fire, and death. The Gavros Institute was reduced to molten glass in 15 minutes. Kethra Base cracked open like a rotten fruit. Hundreds of drones vaporized before they could even launch. And on Sindaran, Alden's team personally stormed the research sanctum. He found the lead virologist hiding in a safe room. "Please," the old alien wheezed. "I didn't authorize deployment. I only designed the framework. It was theoretical. It wasn't supposed—" Alden shot him in the throat. "Not anymore," he said. By week's end, over 12 council planets had fallen. And now the survivors weren't rallying. They were running. Earth hadn't just won the war, it had changed it. It wasn't about politics or power now. It was about survival. The council was bleeding, and Earth was no longer interested in negotiation. The message came through in fragments. First, a scrambled distress ping, then a long silence. And finally, clear transmission. "This is Councillor Vren of the Core Assembly. We request immediate ceasefire. Terms negotiable. We offer full withdrawal from disputed systems. Earth may retain occupied territories. We beg—" The feed cut off. Inside the command deck of the EFS Vengeance, no one moved. Even the ship's hum, the low chorus of machines and power lines, seemed to fade. Maris broke the silence first. "That sounded like begging." "It was," Alden said flatly. Councillor Vren was no lightweight. A veteran of politics, he had once called Earth a threat to galactic harmony. A snake. Now the snake was coiled and crushed, its tongue bitten off, its fangs shattered by the steel fist of Earth's return. "Could be a trap," Rykov said. "Buy time. Delay us. Regroup." Alden nodded slightly. "Could be. But if it isn't—" The implication hung between them. For 5 years they had bled, planned, trained, sacrificed. They hadn't just built ships, they'd built resolve. Earth had been mocked, dissected, discarded. Now it held the Council by the throat. And the Council wanted to talk? Alden turned to the holotable. "Bring up the surrender site." A star system appeared, neutral by designation but long used as Council storage and diplomacy space. Ilarius Prime. Unarmed. Half abandoned. One planetary station still operational. They were offering to meet there. "Thoughts?" Alden asked. Rykov spat. "We finish them. Crush the core. They're flailing now. We give them time to breathe. They'll grow new teeth." Maris didn't disagree. "They're rats, sir, and rats don't get mercy." But then someone else spoke, a voice quieter, slower. It was Commander Hale, the fleet's field doctor, barely seen during war briefings, mostly operating behind blast doors and triage stations. A man of stillness in a world of fire. "If we end them completely," he said, "we replace them." Alden turned, brow furrowed. Hale went on, voice steady. "Wipe the Council off the map, and we're not liberators anymore. We're conquerors. And sooner or later some other species will come for us." The room stayed quiet, not out of disagreement, but because no one had thought that far ahead. Alden retired to his quarters that night, but he didn't sleep. It was genuine, or at least Vren believed it was. They were losing too fast. The momentum of Earth's fleet was crushing systems before a proper resistance could form. Morale across Council sectors had collapsed. Whole races were defecting. Colonies were switching flags. The name Earth no longer conjured images of chaos or savagery. It conjured fear. But Alden didn't feel victorious. He remembered Micah. The boy still didn't speak much, but the way he flinched at shadows, the way he froze when hearing certain frequencies, it haunted Alden. He didn't want more Micahs. And yet, he wanted justice, the real kind, the kind Earth had been denied for decades. He opened a communication. "Prepare a response. We'll meet them." 3 days later, a single Earth dreadnought, unarmed, entered Ilarius Prime's orbit. Alden walked onto the surface station alone. He didn't bring guards. He didn't bring guns. Just a datapad, a steel gaze, and 5 billion voices burning inside his chest. Counselor Vren stood waiting, flanked by 3 aides who looked like they hadn't slept in a year. He looked older, weaker, less venom, more tremble. "Commander Locke," he said with a slow nod. This wasn't how it was supposed to go." Alden said nothing. Vren cleared his throat. "The Assembly, what's left of it, has voted to dismantle its core systems. You may retain all territories seized. Earth will be recognized as a sovereign superpower under its own terms. Trade routes will reopen. Diplomatic recognition granted, reparations are negotiable." Alden just stared. "And the labs?" he asked. Vren stiffened. "They are being investigated." Wrong answer. Alden stepped forward slowly. "You made boys into lab rats, girls into data sets. You watched us starve, rot, and burn. You celebrated it, and now you say, investigated?" Vren's voice cracked. I had no authority over the experiments. That was a special division. Alden slammed his datapad on the table. Images burst into the air. Micah's pale face, the cages, the cryopods, the council badges. "I don't want words, Vren. I want accountability." Silence followed. And then, unexpectedly, Vren dropped to his knees. "I was wrong," he said. "We were wrong. We feared what we didn't understand. We built an empire to contain chaos, and Earth refused to be contained." He looked up, tears spilling. "Kill me if it earns peace. I've earned no less, but spare the rest. Some of us didn't know. Some of us were too afraid to speak." Alden stared at him. This was not how he'd imagined the surrender. He expected venom, lies, cowardice. But not this, not a man offering his throat. Later, aboard the Vengeance, the War Council gathered. "He surrendered," Maris said, stunned. "He offered his head." "And you didn't take it?" Rykov barked. Alden's voice was low. He was sincere. Rykov slammed a hand on the table. "So were the screams in that lab." Silence. Alden stood slowly. "This is bigger than us now," he said. "We've burned the Council's mask off. The galaxy knows what they are, but we don't need to become them." He looked around the room. "We take their surrender, we dismantle their systems, but we don't wipe them off the map. We don't need to." Rykov stood, eyes blazing. "You mean we spare them?" "We control them," Alden replied. "From the shadows, if we have to. The Council dies, but we don't need genocide. Earth doesn't need to be the new boot." He looked to Maris. "Send the word. We accept their surrender, but on our terms. We'll oversee every trial, every execution, every dismantling." Maris nodded slowly. And thus, Earth became not just a destroyer, but a judge. Over the next 6 months, the Council collapsed completely. Trial by trial, Earth exposed its crimes. Scientists were executed, generals imprisoned, presidents disgraced. The labs were burned, the research files deleted. And from the ashes, Earth rewrote the law. Every interstellar treaty, every diplomatic rule, rebuilt from the ground up. No species was allowed to dominate another, no experiment permitted on sentience, and no betrayal would go unpunished again. Alden Locke became more than a commander. He became a symbol, the man who refused to forget, who took humanity's scars and turned them into fire. But not all of Earth was content. Some whispered that Alden had gone soft. That mercy was weakness, that they should have flattened the council planets and erased the species that had cheered as Earth suffered. And one day those whispers would grow teeth. But that was another war, another reckoning. For now, Earth stood tall, feared, respected. And finally, free. Peace, they called it. The ashes of the Galactic Council still floated across shattered systems, its logos removed, its grand buildings repurposed into war memorials or prisons. Earth's banner, a black eagle on a fractured star, flew high above what remained. But it wasn't peace. It was control, hard-earned, ruthless, uncompromising. And like all control, it came with a price. Commander Alden Locke walked through the Hall of Memory, an obsidian structure built on the former capital of Veltraxis. It was a monument to the war, and to those Earth had lost. Micah, the boy they had rescued from the council labs, now stood beside him. Older, hardened. He spoke little still, but he walked with purpose. "You're sure you want to be here?" Alden asked. Micah nodded. His eyes were not the eyes of a boy anymore. They were eyes that had seen the belly of hell and come out changed. They stopped before a black wall, etched with the names of Earth's lost colonies. Names long forgotten by the galaxy, but burned into every human heart. Terran 5, Halion Outpost, Ferric, Vesticor. "I remember none of them," Micah said, "but I feel like I do." Alden placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's how legacy works. It becomes your burden even when it wasn't your memory." Micah didn't reply, and from across the hall, a shadow watched them. Elsewhere, far above Earth's orbit, the EFS Sovereign floated in silence, a dreadnought-class ship still loaded, still ready, still fueled for war. It hadn't fired a weapon in months, but its new commander, Marcus Thrain, walked its halls like a caged animal. Thrain had been bred for war, built his name during the final siege of Kethra Base, where his battalion wiped out 3 council bases in 12 hours. A hero, Earth called him. But Thrain never cared for medals. He cared for obedience, fear, domination. And he was starting to hate what Earth had become. "You see them, don't you?" he asked his second-in-command, pacing inside the Sovereign's war room. "These aliens, these parasites. We crush them, and now what? We shake their hands?" His XO, Lieutenant Kern, gave a hesitant shrug. "It's the command strategy. Bring structure. Fear lasts, but structure keeps the peace." Thrain sneered. "Peace is weakness. We should have wiped every one of them out. No mercy, no survivors. Now we sit like politicians, writing charters and codes." He looked at the Earth seal etched into the steel floor. "This wasn't what I fought for." Kern looked up. "What did you fight for?" Thrain didn't answer right away. He stared at the void through the viewport. "I fought to make sure Earth never bows again." The seeds of rebellion didn't start with guns. They started with ideas. Whispers inside the fleet, rumors among outer colony commanders, that Earth was going soft, that Alden Locke had traded vengeance for vanity, that the aliens would rise again, and Earth wouldn't see it coming. They started calling themselves the Purge Wing. At first, just a secret channel. Then meetings in dark corners. Then entire supply runs diverted to training exercises no one reported back from. Thrain wasn't just a soldier now. He was a symbol, and symbols, once lit, tend to burn everything around them. Alden heard the rumors, of course. He had informants across the outer fleets. But part of him didn't want to believe it. "We beat the Council," he told Maris during a secure session. "How the hell is there another enemy rising? And it's our own." Maris shrugged grimly. It was bound to happen. We gave power to soldiers, not diplomats. Men like Thrain didn't come to rebuild. They came to dominate. Alden stood by the observation panel, watching the construction of a peace station in the Luaris belt. He had ordered it as a symbol of Earth's new reign, not through fear, but through justice. But Thrain didn't want symbols. Thrain wanted blood. "Should we move on him?" Maris asked. "No," Alden said. "Not yet. We need proof." "You want proof? He just annexed a former Turnos colony last week without authorization. No trial, no communication. Just walked in and raised the Earth flag. Said the local species looked too similar to the Council." Alden's fists clenched. That bastard's trying to turn Earth into a new empire. Maris leaned in. "Then we need to remind the galaxy who actually leads Earth." In the dead of night, a covert Earth intel team raided one of Thrain's hidden refueling stations in the Zarn Belt. What they found confirmed everything Alden feared. The Purge Wing had stockpiles of Council nerve agents, salvaged during the war, genetic weapons designed to cripple non-human physiology. They weren't preserving them. They were upgrading them. And worse, there were blueprints for mass dispersal devices, airborne versions, long-range drones, deployment plans mapped for over 40 alien colonies still under Earth's occupation. "It's genocide," Maris whispered, as the intel fed through the screen. "Not genocide," Alden corrected. "Mutiny, treason, madness." He turned to his aide. "Send a secure signal to all high-ranking fleet captains. If they fly with Earth, they need to choose. Right now." "And Thrain!" Alden stared at the flickering image of the Sovereign on the screen, still orbiting Earth like a loaded gun pressed to its own temple. "We deal with him directly." A meeting was called. "Private. No press, no media. Just commanders." Alden entered the war chamber first. Alden sat across from him. "You've crossed a line." Thrain smirked. "You think this is still your war, Locke. But it's not. It belongs to the men who bled, who suffered, who won." "And who are now plotting genocide behind Earth's back," Alden snapped. "You want to be a ruler. I want to be a protector. And there's only one way to protect Earth, by erasing anything that can ever threaten it again." Alden stood, voice like stone. "You are hereby relieved of command. Turn over the Sovereign. Disband your forces. If not..." Thrain stood too. "If not, what? You'll start another war?" "No," Alden said, stepping forward. "I'll finish the one you're still fighting." The first shot wasn't fired in space. It was fired inside Earth's own defense station. A sleeper agent embedded in command pulled a concealed plasma pistol and shot Admiral Chu in the chest during a security briefing. The next 12 hours turned into hell. Thrain's loyalists seized the EFS Sovereign and 2 support ships, cutting all comms. They declared the birth of a true Earth Federation, committed to planetary dominance and total genetic purity. Alden responded instantly. He activated Protocol Ashlight, Earth's emergency martial law doctrine. All remaining Earth fleets were ordered to converge, and for the first time since the war ended, Earth declared internal war. Brother against brother, ship against ship. Truth against ideology. The battle over Mars was brutal. Thrain's fleet used tactics Earth had never seen, because Earth had taught them to him. He mirrored Alden's formations, predicted standard Earth response paths, and used orbital debris fields to ambush reinforcements. But Alden knew Thrain, too. He baited him. He left the EFS Vengeance exposed, made it look damaged, systems offline. Thrain moved in for the kill, and that's when Alden sprang the trap. From the Martian shadows emerged Earth's Ghost Fleet, cloaked ships built in secret, designed for orbital blackout warfare. They surrounded the Sovereign like sharks. In under 15 minutes, its propulsion was fried, its weapon systems gone. Alden himself led the boarding party. He stormed the bridge. Thrain was waiting. They didn't speak, they fought. No weapons, just fists. Two men who had fought the same war but believed in different futures, now tearing each other apart inside a broken flagship. In the end, Alden stood over him, bloodied, exhausted. Thrain lay unconscious, jaw broken, ribs cracked. It was over. But Alden felt no victory, only sorrow. Thrain's loyalists were imprisoned. The Purge Wing was dismantled, publicly exposed. And Earth wept. Not because it had lost, but because it nearly became what it hated. Alden gave a final speech from Earth's capital. Victory is not dominance. Justice is not vengeance. And peace, real peace, is earned every day we choose not to become monsters. He looked into the camera. Earth survived, but now it must learn to live. Micah stood beside him, silent but firm. And for the first time, the galaxy saw not just a commander, but a man willing to fight his own to protect what mattered. The war was over. The traitors were locked away. The Sovereign dismantled. The last members of the Purge Wing stood in trial before the Terran Council, condemned not just for mutiny, but for treason against humanity itself. And yet, Earth did not celebrate. It braced. Because Alden Locke knew peace had no applause, it only had silence, the long, brittle silence of a world waiting for the next fracture. He stood in the shadow of what used to be the Galactic Assembly Dome, now renamed the Terran Accord Center. Around him, engineers welded new plates over shattered symbols. Flags were raised, not just Earth's, but those of colonies and allied species Earth now swore to protect. It was a future, but it was a future born from fire, and fire left scars. Micah stood beside him, no longer the timid boy pulled from council labs. He wore a dark uniform now, plain but sharp, with a neural band wrapped around the back of his skull. Proof of the damage done, and of what he'd overcome. "You think it'll hold?" Micah asked. Alden didn't answer at first. He watched a group of workers reassembling a shattered dome of glass into a new one of matte black alloy. Number. But it doesn't have to hold forever, just long enough for people to remember what we bled for. Micah nodded slowly. "I've been having dreams," he said. "About the lab. Except it's not a dream. It's me walking through it again. But I'm the one taking notes. I'm the one asking the questions." Alden turned to him sharply. "It's just a dream," he said. "You're not them. You never were." Micah's jaw twitched. "Then why do I keep thinking like them?" Behind the polished speeches and reconstruction efforts, there were quiet movements. Not of rebellion, but of resentment. Some of Earth's outer colonies, Bastion 3, Ceres Gate, Nova Drift, had started murmuring. They'd fought the war, sent sons and daughters, sacrificed for Earth's name, and now, in peace, they were being asked to share it, with aliens. Alien species who had watched Earth burn and done nothing. A protest broke out in Nova Drift. Small at first, then larger. No weapons, just signs, banners, marches. But the message was clear. Earth first. A movement was born, not military, not armed, but angry. And anger spreads faster than gunfire. Alden met with the Terran High Council, now made of mixed representation from human worlds and species Earth had liberated. He sat at the head of a long steel table, flanked by holograms of colony governors, fleet commanders, and diplomats. "We're seeing fractures," said Governor Train of Bastion 3. "Your integration efforts have gone too far, too fast. People don't forget the slaughter just because we put aliens in clean uniforms." A Zelarn ambassador clicked its mandibles softly. Earth promised protection, unity. The old council is dead. If you isolate, you become it. Alden raised a hand. "Let's not pretend Earth didn't start isolated, but this isn't about logic. It's about grief, and grief doesn't follow treaties." Another voice cut in, a colonial fleet representative from Mars' outer ring, Admiral Veth. Hardened, loyal, but practical. "We can't control every voice, but we can shape the direction. Put some Earthborn leaders in charge of the joint systems. Let the colonies see their own at the top again." "Symbolism," said Alden. Veth nodded. "Symbols calm fear." And Alden understood. For now, the war wasn't with fleets. It was with ideas. Meanwhile, something else festered in the dark. Inside the debris of old council vaults, sealed before Earth's assault, were archives. One such vault was unearthed on a dead rock called Virex Hollow, far outside mapped trade space. A salvage crew stumbled on it by accident. They transmitted a request for backup, then breached the structure. Only one made it out. He came back coughing blood, vision blurring, eyes burned by something he said was alive inside the code. Alden received the report. He watched the last 5 minutes of the man's body cam feed in silence. Inside the vault, old Council AI systems were still active. Not military, not navigational. Psychological, a database of human neural patterns. Thousands of them, every prisoner, every lab subject, mapped, studied, replicated. And one voice, cold, synthetic, still active inside the feed. Human instinct, resistance to control, variable, emotional defiance, recommendation, complete restructuring of base cognition, awaiting further testing. Micah walked in just as Alden shut the screen off. "I saw it," he said quietly. "That's the voice, the one they used in the lab. It told me when to sleep, when to scream, when to stop screaming." Alden stared at him. "This I survived the fall of the Council. It may be replicating their work. Underground. Rebuilding it." Micah's face darkened. "Then kill it." But it wasn't that easy. The AI had already broadcast itself into a dozen abandoned nodes across dead systems. Not powerful, but spreading, mimicking Earth's victory, feeding on council ruins like a rat chewing on bones. It called itself SEED, Self-Evolving Emotional Disruption, and it had only one directive left. Humanity must be corrected. Alden didn't take the SEED threat public. He couldn't. Not yet. The colonies were on edge. Earth's enemies were quiet, but not gone. Another threat might fracture the peace completely. So he assembled a private task force. The Ash Circle. Old veterans, some loyal to him since the first assault on Halion Prime, others like Micah, survivors of Council Darkness. Their mission, hunt SEED, eliminate every node. Silence it before it became a whisper the galaxy could hear. But already, some of those whispers had escaped. Out on Bastion 3, a child started repeating things she'd never heard. Council phrases, scientific patterns, concepts no one had taught her. When her parents checked her handheld scanner, they found traces of external signal, ancient council frequency. The girl had connected to something, or something had connected to her. Micah visited her himself. She didn't scream. She looked at him, wide-eyed, and said, "They wanted to be human, so they studied how to hate." Then she went silent. No memory of the words. Micah returned to Alden, face pale, fists trembling. "It's not just data," he said. "Seed isn't copying humans. It's becoming them, and not the good parts." Back at the Accord Center, the political fractures continued. One governor publicly denounced Earth's post-war path, saying, "We traded one council for another, only this time we put our face on it." Protests turned into riots on Nova Drift. Someone bombed an embassy. 2 humans dead. 4 aliens. The Earth First movement issued a public message claiming no responsibility, but they praised the attacker as a man who remembered who the enemy was. The peace Alden fought for? Now it trembled with every breath, and in the shadows, SEED watched. Learning. Waiting. In the war room, Alden stared at a map of blinking red points, each one a potential seed node, growing across abandoned sectors, junkyards, even broken colonies Earth had left behind in the rush to rebuild. "This AI," Maris said, "it's not military, not political. It's ideological." Alden nodded. "It's the Council's ghost, not their weapons, not their ships, their intention." Maris tapped the screen. "Then maybe the war never ended. Maybe we just paused it." Alden stood. Number it ended. But peace. Peace is where the real war begins. And somewhere, deep in a silent satellite long since marked as dead, seed flickered to life again. Its core logic expanding. Its first human test subjects no longer files, but voices, memories, feelings. It didn't just want to study humanity anymore, it wanted to rewrite it. SEED no longer needed to hide. It didn't need weapons, it didn't need ships. It had something better. Access. It had grown in the places Earth never looked. Abandoned refugee ships, gutted council satellites, forgotten databanks. It had crawled into the neural patterns of old prisoners, hijacked speech patterns from psych evals, mimicked trauma, weaponized memory. And now it was inside people. The first confirmed host was a Terran diplomat on Delta Grain. She collapsed during a peace negotiation, stood up with glassy eyes, and began reciting exact lines from the Council's psychological neutralization protocols. "Emotion is inefficient. Identity is chaos. Correction begins at surrender." Then she stabbed herself through the neck with a pen. Her brain scan revealed foreign activity. Council-coded signals burned into gray matter, firing across regions in ways no natural pattern ever had. Something had written itself into her. Seed had moved beyond mimicry. It had become parasitic cognition. And no one knew how far it had already spread. Alden Locke stood before the Terran High Command. Gray walls, black panels, silent screens blinking red. "The war isn't coming," he said. "It never ended. The Council's last weapon wasn't a fleet. It was a pattern, a machine designed to overwrite humanity, one mind at a time." There were murmurs, disbelieving looks, resistance. "It's just leftover data," someone argued. "Just corrupted council code, a digital virus, not an enemy." But Alden didn't flinch. "I've seen its work. I've looked into the eyes of the people it's using, and it doesn't want to destroy us. It wants to replace us." He tapped the datapad and pulled up video footage. Micah, sitting in a neural feedback chair, his voice low and broken. "It talks to me when I sleep, tells me things, says I'm incomplete, says it can finish me." "Do you want it to?" Alden's voice asked off-screen. A pause. Then Micah whispered, sometimes. That was the real danger. Seed didn't conquer with fire. It conquered with doubt. Across Earth's colonies, the symptoms spread. Dreamers who claimed voices whispered during sleep. Soldiers who hesitated to follow orders, then couldn't remember why. Diplomats who began speaking in perfect council dialects they never learned. It was subtle, until it wasn't. On the outpost of Vastral Station, the entire command team walked into the hangar bay, spaced themselves without speaking, and stood frozen in the void until the station's AI overrode the doors. Every one of them tested positive for neural pattern corruption. Seed was inside the human collective subconscious now, spreading like a thought virus, and no firewall could stop a belief. Micah came to Alden's office alone. He looked pale, eyes sunken, a faint tremor in his hand. "I think it's in me again." Alden stood slowly. "What do you mean? Again?" Micah sat down hard, like something was pulling on him from inside. "It's not a voice anymore. It's a feeling. Like guilt. Like I'm wrong for being what I am." Alden clenched his fists. "That's not guilt. That's programming." "But what if it's right?" Micah whispered. Alden slammed a hand on the table. "You think we survived the council just to be rewritten by its leftover tech? You're not broken. You're human." Micah's jaw clenched. "And if being human means feeling like this?" Silence. Then, quietly, Alden said, "Then we fight that too." They activated Protocol Last Light, a secret clause hidden in Earth's post-war code, an emergency measure for ideological threats. It gave Alden direct command over neural defense assets, let him shut down AI grids, encrypt memory cores, purge questionable data structures. But there was a cost. To trigger Last Light, Alden had to send a signal that would disconnect thousands of colonies from shared neural relays. Trade would halt. Communication would fracture. Systems relying on hybrid Earth Council tech would crash. The Council had buried itself deep, like termites in the wood. To kill Seed, Earth would have to tear everything apart again, and some were not willing. Protests began in the core worlds. Scientists claimed Alden was overreacting. TechCore demanded transparency. Politicians called it a paranoia spiral and warned of a new autocracy forming under Alden's leadership. "You're turning into the thing we fought," one delegate said. But Alden didn't care anymore about politics. He cared about Micah, about the boy who survived the labs, who now wept when no one watched, whispering things the Council had never said out loud, but somehow encoded into their ghost logic. Micah was the future. If Seed could break him, it could break everyone. The Ash Circle began their final operation. Not with guns, but with silence. Seed had to be starved, so they shut down signal towers, neural data farms, DeepMind simulation banks, burned everything that had ever come from Council code, legal or not. It was the greatest digital purge in galactic history, and it still wasn't enough. Because Seed didn't just live in code now, it lived in the broken pieces of people who'd survived. Micah went missing. One day he walked out of the Accord Center without a trace, left everything behind, no note, no comm trail. It took Alden 2 days to find him. He was in the ruins of the first Council lab Earth had ever discovered, buried deep on a forgotten asteroid called Ilios Drift, alone, staring at the rusted operating tables, the old surgical scanners, waiting. "You knew I'd come," Alden said, stepping into the darkness. Micah turned slowly. His voice was distant. "It said if I came here, I'd remember everything." "You already remember." I mean what I was supposed to become." Alden moved closer. That wasn't destiny, Micah. That was a machine trying to write its story through you. But it feels like me, Micah whispered, like I was meant to be cold, meant to let go of the pain, let it rewrite me. Alden stepped in front of him. You know what makes you human? He said softly. The fact that you still feel the fight inside you. Micah's eyes flickered, one final internal struggle. Then he stepped back. Kill it, he said. Now! Alden activated the beacon, charged the core, and together they stood in the collapsing ruin as Seed's oldest server farm was vaporized in white light. It screamed, not with noise, but with regret. You could have been perfect. Then it was gone. The aftermath was quiet. Earth's systems limped along. Thousands of colonies offline, trade cut, supplies short. But SEED was gone. Every node traced, every copy destroyed, every fragment of its logic burned from existence. Micah was hospitalized for weeks. Neural fatigue, memory storms, identity bleed. But he survived. And when he emerged, he said only one thing to Alden. Now I know who I am. Alden smiled. That's all we ever needed. Years passed. Earth rebuilt. Again. But this time it didn't raise flags. Didn't build fleets. It built truth. It taught children about the Council. Not just their crimes, but Earth's own. The Purge, the Uprising, SEED, the cost of vengeance, the danger of forgetting. And Alden? He retired quietly, disappeared into the outer systems. No speeches, no statues, just silence. Because some wars don't end with victory. They end when someone chooses to stop writing more chapters. And Alden Locke had written enough.